Hello internet strangers, we're back again with another video. I was planning on making a video on Flintlock, but I saw that Stellar Blade got another preview, so we'll be checking that out instead. And with that being said, let's get it in. Stellar Blade preview, Sekiro meets Nier Automata.
This place is dangerous. Take my hand.
If stylishly wielding a sword as an anime-style female warrior traversing a post-apocalyptic world left behind by its inhabitants sounds anything like Nier Automata, well, that's because Stellar Blade director Kim Hyung-tae was directly inspired by Square Enix's 2017 hit.
Fun fact, the composer for Nier Automata is actually working on a lot of the soundtracks for Stellar Blade. I think about 40% of Stellar Blade's soundtrack is being composed by the Nier Automata soundtrack. So if you're a fan of Nier, it is pretty much a guarantee that you are going to like Stellar Blade's music as well.
Probably not the only one who imagined Stellar Blade would play similarly to Nier Automata as well. A stylish but casual action game that allows you to beat the crap out of your enemies without too much stress. However, from the moment I got the hold of the controller, I realized that I was gonna have a much more nerve-wracking experience than I expected, but in the best possible way. Stellar Blade puts a much bigger emphasis on defense.
You know, this is the first time I'm seeing a secondary character fighting with you. I wonder if you're gonna have the option to like bring allies with you during a mission, or perhaps have different allies that you can choose from, having them have different skills. That could be a pretty interesting feature that they could add to the game if it's not already in the game. Something I would like to see. And I feel like a lot of games since God of War 2018 has decided to have a secondary AI companion that you can give commands to, things of that nature, and it would be really cool if you could do the same thing in Stellar Blade.
Defensive skills than I would have thought. Reading the timing of enemy attacks for well-timed parries and dodges is almost as important as it was in Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. Parrying multiple attacks to disrupt your enemy's balance allows you to perform a special attack called Retribution. Besides your regular dodge mechanic, Stellar Blade introduces Blink and Repulse. Both are dodging skills that counter the enemy's attack, but they can only be used against specific attacks. Blink is utilized by pressing...
I love that we have multiple defensive options. It's not just block, 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 or dodge. You have your Blink, you have your Repulse, you have your parry. You probably also have a regular guard. That's over 4 defensive options, and that's not even including, Blink, parry, block, Repulse. And that's not even including the regular dodge. I like the fact that this game demands your attention. Let's take Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, for example. Fantastic game, beautiful art style. You don't really need to pay attention to what you're doing if your character is high leveled enough. Eventually, you could just mash the square button, hold down the block button, and you're going to be fine. So I really like that this game is demanding my focus, and I think more games need to do that, because more and more I feel like games feel like movies. Almost feel like I'm watching a movie, and the whole point of playing a game is because I want to do the things on screen. I don't want to watch people do the stuff for me.
Pressing the circle button and moving the analog stick forward simultaneously, while Repulse requires you to press circle and move backwards. At first it can be challenging to instantly know and react to an enemy attack that can be countered by Blink or Repulse, but once you get the hang of it, parrying and dodging a series of attacks only to deliver a devastating counter attack at the end feels incredible. It makes you realize just how much Stellar Blade rewards the time you take to learn attack patterns.
Yeah, 100%. More games should do that. More games should reward players for engaging with its mechanics. Right? I feel like none of games do that. It's like, hey, just hit the thing, do it however you want to do it. Even if you're not that good at it, we're still going to give you a super high rank so you can just get the stuff and you don't actually have to be good at the game. I like when games demand my attention and then reward me for playing well. You know, it's like a lot of people that don't engage with the mechanics are not going to see those like really dope finisher animations. And I know it might not seem like a big thing, but I really enjoy that in my games, and I want it to feel like I earned it. Don't just give me the animation because the enemy's health is low. Give me the animation because I perfectly executed my Repulse or my Blink ability.
In games that put a high emphasis on parrying and dodging, I often find myself playing a bit too defensively. Thanks to a great set of offensive tools, I didn't have the same problem with Stellar Blade. Beta skills, which can be utilized once your gauge is full, can cancel an enemy's attack if the timing is right. There's also an attack that allows you to quickly get close to the enemy after dodging from a distance. Delivering a series of attacks with the square and triangle buttons, cancelling your...
So your beta gauge does increase with every parry as well. I didn't notice that before.
Enemies attack with a well-timed beta skill, only to finish them off with yet another combo, can feel just as great as the parrying and dodging. Stellar Blade equally provides the player with both great defensive and offensive skills, which makes it feel balanced and deep. Being able to take different strategies depending on the enemy type is great in itself, but it feels like Stellar Blade has enough depth and variety for players to find their own unique style to tackle the challenging combat. At a certain point in the game, Eve will become able to use a long-range gun-type weapon as well, while melee combat remains the main focus.
I really hope that the gun is not only going to be in third person. I'm hoping that I can intertwine it in my regular combos. I'm really hoping that I could just like mid sword attack, shoot out one bullet, and then go back into the sword, dodge, shoot another bullet, come back in. If I always have to go into the third person, I might be a little less likely to use it. I am hoping for like a quick fire method in the game.
Some instances require the use of your gun in order to advance, and apparently some stages are designed for this weapon, but I didn't get to play any of those. I did get to use the gun in a fight against Stalker.
Fun little tidbit, your robot companion is yellow. In every other trailer that I've seen, the companion was not yellow, most likely because you can either customize your robot companion, giving it different ammo, a different loadout, and a different look. Other option is that they're doing the same thing in Nier Automata, where you can find different robot companions with different functions. I am hoping for a more customizable companion than a findable companion, but that is yet to be seen.
One of Stellar Blade's creepy bosses. By successfully countering a specific attack with Repulse, a weak spot is unveiled next to Stalker's head. Heavy damage can be dealt if you are quick enough to fire at this weak spot. I also found myself relying on the gun whenever I was out of potions, as attacking from a distance wasn't nearly as risky as attacking with my blade. At the very least, the gun should function as yet another option in Stellar Blade's already robust combat. The bosses I got to fight all had a wide array of attack patterns that fundamentally changed once they headed into a different phase.
Multiple phases confirmed. I am here for that. Thank you very much.
While overwhelming at first, after a few tries I realized how the attacks were designed for me to utilize the parrying, dodging, and other skills that Stellar Blade had taught me at that point. Stellar Blade has two difficulty settings, normal mode and story mode. While calling it a Souls-like would make it sound more difficult than it actually is.
First of all, I don't even know why you have the term Souls-like in this video. This is not a Souls-like in any way, shape, or form. For it to be a Souls-like, you need stamina, you need consumables, you need bonfires, you need methodical combat, you need to be able to get pretty much one-shotted by... like, what separates Souls games from many other games is that regardless of your level, in Elden Ring, Bloodborne, Dark Souls, even Sekiro, regardless of your health and your level, you could get murked by like a bunch of regular mobs. You can get decimated by a bunch of regular mobs if you're not paying attention. This is what you would call character action. And I feel like in the modern day, instead of calling something character action, they call it a Souls-like because there's so much attention on the Souls genre. I would not call this a Souls game. This is closer to Nier. This is even very close to Devil May Cry. If you look at the combat in this game and you look at the DMC5 combat, very similar type of gameplay. This is much closer to that than to any Souls game I've played. So just to clear up any confusion, this is a character action game.
In normal mode, regular enemies can kill you if you let your guard down. On my first few attempts, bosses felt quite challenging as well. From a game design perspective, Stellar Blade does draw a lot of inspiration from the Soulsborne genre. Camps feel just like bonfire checkpoints. You can unlock shortcuts that lead you back to those checkpoints, and be prepared for surprise attacks from enemies placed just around the corner.
Is Castlevania Souls-like? Because it has shortcuts? Is that what you're gonna tell me? Is Pokemon a Souls-like because enemies can pop out of nowhere? Is that what you're gonna tell me? That's all it takes to be a Souls-like? Crash Bandicoot has checkpoints. Are you telling me that's a Souls-like? Come on, man.
When playing in story mode, the game feels a lot more forgiving, and you can turn on an accessibility option called Action Assist that tells you the right timing for parrying and dodging in QTE fashion.
Yes. Yes to this, and anyone who has a problem with accessibility options in the game, you're a part of the problem. You see, with having more accessibility options, you're allowing more people to play the game, essentially increasing your player base, essentially increasing the demand for another game from this company. Henceforth, you're not gonna have to have a super high ESG score so that you can have investors invest in the game, and you won't have to hire outside companies like Sweet Baby Inc. to increase your ESG score.
I like that camps don't just function as a place that restores your health and refills your potions, but provides some actual relaxation.
We have another robot over here. This one's shape is completely different. Again, either we can customize them or there's gonna be different variants of them in the game.
For Eve and the player. Watching Eve kick back on her chair while playing your choice of song on the record player is a good way to take a break. At these camps, Eve occasionally has conversations with her friends, and the game can reward you with flashbacks and other events. Some events only occur at specific camps, so finding all the camps functions as a nice extra for completionists or those who want to dig deeper into Stellar Blade's world and characters.
I'm hoping that hidden campfires also means secret bosses. That's what I'm hoping for. I really hope, because like I know that the game there's stages and there's a hub area as well. So I'm guessing that maybe in the hub area, like there's a city that you can explore. Outside the city, there's a desert. Possibly if you could explore that desert to a certain extent, maybe not a full open world, but a very large hub, kind of like in Final Fantasy VII. Perhaps there's like some hidden bosses in those areas. And when you beat those bosses, maybe you get some weapons or some outfits for the game.
You can buy items and learn new skills at camps as well. Newly obtained skills can be tried out in the game's training room, but even if you don't, Stellar Blade will remind you of that skill during the next...
Yeah, you see, very similar
with flash.
Very similar to Devil May Cry. Even in Devil May Cry, you could buy your skills at telephone booths before a mission, after the mission, and you also had a training area to try out new skills. So don't call this a Souls-like.
You can buy items and learn new skills at camps as well. Newly obtained skills can be tried out in the game's training room, but even if you don't, Stellar Blade will remind you of that skill during the next combat session in the main game. Stellar Blade has many small details like this that make me feel like I was being taken great care of. For example, whenever the beta skill gauge is full, the game's UI will notify you of this. While it might sound like an afterthought, for someone who often gets caught up in the action and forgets to look at the gauge like me, it goes a long way. While Stellar Blade is combat focused, I experienced some simple puzzles and platforming as well.
Okay, y'all all saw the same, and that animation is it's looking a little rough, my guy. It's looking a little rough. However, if the gameplay is fun and the story is good, I don't care if the traversal looks whack. And again, this is a combat focused game. So I'm not gonna demand the stars and the moon when it comes to the traversal animation, because as you can see, they put most of their budget in that backside.
Entering a code in order to open a door was so straightforward that I didn't even feel bad to refer to the hint feature. While not particularly spectacular, platforming sessions like moving wooden boards on a water surface by swimming to then climb on them and jump to a nearby ladder were decent enough to provide some welcome variety. Speaking of swimming, Eve can swim underwater as well, which I found somewhat rare for a combat-focused action game like Stellar Blade. In typical video game fashion, swimming to the bottom of the water rewarded me with a treasure chest. What else would you expect? While
it seems like they're really pushing exploration, which makes me really believe that we're gonna have a lot of hidden features in the game, like a secret boss. Please give me secret bosses.
Linear, the stage I got to play was wide enough for a few detours with other hidden treasure chests and optional enemies. I got the impression that Stellar
Optional enemies or optional bosses?
Blade takes exploration seriously as well, at least for an action game. In the main game, players can explore a city called Zion, as well as some less linear areas. While the depth of its exploration remains to be seen, Stellar Blade's action alone was more than enough for me to get excited for its April 26th release on PlayStation 5. For more upcoming games, stick with IGN.
All right, well, listen, I'm convinced. I'm getting the game day one. Very excited for that. Will you be getting the game? It's coming out April 26th. Let me know in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, be sure to like, share, favorite, subscribe, all that good stuff. And before you head out, I'm trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Something I literally can't do without you guys. And if you don't want to help, well, remember, at the end of the day, I'm just some guy on the internet. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.